How is everybody doing today? This is L.A.Kendrick with another tale from the vault on Would You Dare. All right, been out there getting that run in. You guys know how we do it. What we do here is we cover everything cryptid, supernatural, extra-dimensional, ultra-dimensional, interdimensional, Bigfoot, U.F.Os, UAPs, hauntings, serial killers, real life stuff, sci-fi stuff. Just stuff to make you think, okay? Nobody's crazy, we're just here, and you process this however you process this. This is just something we're doing to keep the imagination sparking, as well as to say, hey, what could be, what is, and what might be. That's what we're here to do. And it's mostly for the fans of my work. I'm just giving you something, giving you guys something back so that you can actually, if you want to, pick my brain, and we can do a live if you guys want to on YouTube. So I appreciate everybody that follows what I'm doing. Like I say, it's foggy as heck outside. That's why I had the headlamp. I'm getting that run in. Got to get that run in, man. You got to stay sharp. You got to get that run in and stay healthy. So let me get right into it, all right? The party don't start till you walk in, and now that you're here, let's begin. And we're going to talk about there was a UFO sighting. Again, process this how you wish and how you want to. This is just talk, speculating, all right? So this is from Zimbabwe, and some kids had seen, reported to have seen an alien landing, all right? Let's go. It's considered one of the largest mass sightings of UFOs in history. On September 16, 1994, outside a school in rural Zimbabwe, 62 young children or students playing during a morning recess reported seeing a strange silver craft come down from the sky and land in a nearby field by a clump of trees. Then the students said one or more humanoid creatures dressed in what seemed like skin-tight black and making odd movements approached them. Some of the students said the creatures seemed to communicate with them telepathically, transmitting a message of concern about the damage human beings were doing to the earth. Soon enough, it became a sufficient news story in Africa and other parts of the world, drawing in a veteran BBC producer and cameraman, and renowned Harvard psychiatrist, with everyone trying to determine what if anything, the children have witnessed. Now, Watley, a filmmaker and photographer, has revisited the story, making the first full-length documentary about the events at what is now known as the Ariel School, including interviews with several of the former students today in their 30s or approaching 40 about how the incident affected them. But Ariel Phenomenon, which will have its first public screening tonight and Saturday, October 7th and 8th at Northampton's Academy of Music, is not so much an exploration of UFOs or science fiction, but rather than an examination of what it means to experience a strange, unsettling event and then feel compelled to keep it secret, fearing that talking about it will only invite disbelief, ridicule, or worse. Film director, producer, or co-writer Randall Nickerson, a Whately native who splits his time between the Valley and New York City, says he first came familiar with the Ariel School story in 1995 when he saw some of the original TV footage of the event, particularly some of the interviews with the school children who were in grades 1 through 6. I had no specific conclusion to draw from that, he said during a recent phone call from Watley, but I was impressed with what the children had to say. They seemed very authentic and consistent. In 2007, Nickerson said he was approached by the John E. Mack Institute, named after the late Harvard psychiatrist who became involved in the story in 1994, to make a short documentary about interviews Mack did with the school children. Nickerson says he began re-examining the story, but soon sensed there was much more to tell. The more I dug into the research, the more it seemed I could really only tell the story with a full-length documentary, he said. That hadn't been in my plan, and it ended up taking a lot longer than I thought it would. There was so much fundraising involved, but I felt I couldn't put my name to the film without telling the deeper story, this deeper story. Nickerson's film includes a number of area professionals with significant documentary credits, including co-writer Christopher Seward of Asheville, editor of the Moore documentaries film Fahrenheit 9/11 and Sicko. Let me skip down because I want to get to the good stuff. Let me see. Aerial Phenomenon draws on archival TV footage from the 1994 event, including interviews with students, teachers, and the student's headmaster, Colin Mackey. School officials had students separately draw pictures of what they had seen, and the film shows many of these examples, revealing the images were quite consistent. School personnel had all been in a meeting when the students were outside. Mackey, in one of the early TV interviews, echoes what most of the teachers say as well. I definitely feel the students saw something. I agree it could be something we're not common with. In addition, the film relates that just a few days before the aerial school incident, numerous UFO sightings, fast-moving lights in the sky without sound, had been reported across parts of southern Africa. Television stations and news organizations filed dozens and dozens of inquiries. Keep hearing something over here, so yeah. I could never make this film without them, he says. Also interviewed the late Tim Leach, a BBC cameraman and producer in South Africa, was the first journalist to visit aerial school in 1994. Leach, a hardened war correspondent, was deeply drawn to the mystery of the children's sighting, eventually to the detriment of his career at the BBC. That's crazy, man, reporting on stuff. You get canned for it. I couldn't handle this UFO thing, he tells Nicholson. It just didn't make sense. I couldn't get my head around it. Leach ended up calling Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist, about the story, and Mack came to Zimbabwe some weeks later to interview the children, footage of which is seen in Aerial Phenomena. Mack too became convinced the children's testimony was authentic, although some critics at the time claimed he had coached some of the children's responses and believed that the whole incident was a case of mass hysteria. Here we go. A few years earlier, Mack had also begun interviewing the adults who said they had encounters with extraterrestrials and aerial phenomena, which relates how that work, plus Mack's involvement in the aerial school event, created a huge backlash for the professor. And he got slammed a lot from what this is saying. Let me get down to the good stuff, some more good stuff. The filmmaker says he ended up spending about 15 months in Africa and also traveled to a few other countries to talk to over 40 of the students, though most did not agree to appear on camera. But their stories were still the same, he said. They didn't say, maybe I was wrong, or I'm not sure what I saw, and they wanted to tell me the story. It was something they've been holding inside for a long time. In the film, one woman says she never told her husband what she witnessed, and another former student who Nicholson says was serving in the British military when he interviewed them, says he kept silent because otherwise most people would think I'm nuts. Yeah, and they always do. Nicholson puts another former student, Emily Trim, at the center of the documentary showing her returning to the aerial school some 20 years after her parents, missionaries from Canada, yanked her. She was in the 3rd grade at the time, and her two older siblings out of school because they evidently could not deal with what their children described to them. Man. In one tearful scene, Trim says, the people in my life were supposed to be closest and to me part of the people in my life who were supposed to be closest to me and part of my support system. And then her voice trails off. Then she adds, I don't feel it, support, in quotes, was there. Nicholson said he also had encountered when he was 10 with something strange and otherworldly, though he won't provide details. But the experiences stayed with him and reinforced his belief that things happen in our world that can't readily be explained, and that people who experience them should not be dismissed out of hand. Okay, let me see here. They're talking about what the government has recently released. The U.S. Department of Defense had held hearings before Congress that described myriad sightings in the last couple of decades that Navy pilots and other observers had made of mysterious flying objects that moved at unbelievable speed or that seemed to lack any visible means of propulsion. defying human understanding of aerodynamics and physics. Nicholson said, in that sense, he's looking to put an online platform to become part of that broader conversation and encourage other people who have stories to tell about their experiences to come forward. And that's the end of that. But what I want to do now is I'm going to try to show the YouTube video just real brief. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. And I want to show you some of the actual video.
The remaining disc flew to a hill which was just out of bounds of the school playground among some trees. The children went to investigate what this strange object was and so walked over to the area that they saw it land. What they saw next would change their lives forever. The same UFO which was floating in the sky had landed and at least two dark figures emerged from the structure and began to approach the children. Many began to flee at this point, but some, mostly older children, stayed during this encounter. They claimed that these beings were very skinny with large rugby ball-shaped black eyes. Once these entities reached the children, it was said that they began telepathically communicating to them with horrific visions of the future being a dystopia due to humans' mismanagement of technology and resources. Reportedly, this event lasted 15 minutes before the beings left the area and disappeared. But isn't the obvious answer that these children just made up this story together? It would have been, but the way that all of these children describe these events does not make it sound fabricated. Upon recess ending, many of the children were crying and clearly shaken up by something. Teachers dismissed the students' claims shortly after the break. However, children shared their experiences with their parents upon returning home that night, warranting parents to come with their kids to school the next day to investigate. In the interviews after with children, they all have generally consistent stories on what happened, with some small details differing between them. When seeing footage of these interviews, it doesn't seem obvious that the children are lying, and psychologists looking at the case don't see obvious signs of dishonesty that children usually show. The school's headmaster also asked the child witnesses to draw what they saw, and all of them came back with similar-looking images of a silver structure, sometimes with the earlier described dark figures standing nearby. Also, many of the children, being from different backgrounds, did not even believe that these beings were extraterrestrial in nature, but that they were tokoloshes, creatures found in local folklore. There have been recent documentaries in which former children on the playground that day still maintain their recount of what happened and what they experienced. It would be strange for a lie to go on for this long into adulthood, especially now that the former children are now living away from one another in different countries. Overall, only the children really know what they experienced that day, and it is difficult to confirm the real truth of what happened. But it is very interesting, and judging by how the children act, the number of them telling the same story, and that now grown up they maintain what they saw, it does make one question what really is out there. That'll do for today, and let me know what you think of this incident, and whether you have seen something strange and unexplained in the sky.
Alright, we're gonna stop it right there. So, that's what we got. So I would consider, according to Jay Heinrich, who was the guy that was doing Project Blue Book when it was a big thing back in the day, he considered this a close encounters of a third kind. And like they said, some of the children ran away when they saw it, when they saw the thing actually, when they saw the aliens actually come out. That's their story. And again, this is a big world, an even bigger universe, and there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on out there. Again, you guys take this however you process it. We don't try to edit anything here, we just go with it so that you guys, it's just like you're talking at a bar or a brunch or at the dinner table, just having conversation. Nothing edited, nothing scripted, all right? That's what I try to do. So, you know, I want to do something on Travis Walton because he did the opposite. What happened to him was like a close encounter of the fourth and fifth kind. And I don't know why he would even do what he did if it's any truth to what he did. But again, you guys, would you dare want to be one of those children that saw something like this, unexplainable, nobody believing you, and nobody supporting you? Would you want to be one of those kids that saw something, an alien, something you can't explain with big, round, walnut-shaped eyes coming towards you, scary, out of a spaceship, flying over trees, landing? and talking to you, trying to communicate with you. 62 kids saw this. 62. Mass hysteria? Could be, but I just find that a little bit perplexing, kind of strange. 62. And then you have to deal with that the rest of your life. People ridiculing you because of what you've seen. Man, that's tough. Kids are kind of resilient though, but you know, you guys leave your like, share, comment, and subscribe, and tell me what you think. All right, give me something. Tell me what you think. You think they saw something? You think it's mass hysteria? You think these? I mean, what do you think, man? Do you think we're alone out here in this big old universe? You know, what do you think? And then make sure that you guys grab a copy of my new book, The Foes of God. It's talking about everything, man. I mean, I got pretty much everything mixed up in this book. And it's a great book, a thick book. I mean, it's an incredible story. Fight scenes, action, you name it, we got it. And again, without stories and things like what we just read off, right? Books like this are not possible. Movies are not possible without an imagination. You gotta have an imagination. So don't sleep on imagination. Don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And like I always said, like I said, something over here kept making noise and I can't figure out what it is. We're in the gym, can't figure out what it is. Because most of the noise always comes from over here because of the venting system here. And you got the class over there. So whatever it is whatever it is. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Somewhere over there. Can't figure it out. Never mind though, but you know, let it do what it do. Could be in here. But with that being said, you guys know how we ended. Make sure you check your homes, the dark recesses of your home, your closets. Make sure that if you work late at night or into the wee hours of the morning, make sure you check under your car, inside of your car, around your car. Make sure you're mindful of your surroundings, because you never know what's lurking in the dark from another planet waiting to make you a story. And this has been L.A.Kendrick with another tale from the vault of Would You Dare? And until next time, you guys, fill in the rest and be safe.